is able. I confess that I've really debated all week long whether or not to share this one because of the personalness of it and maybe the depths of it. It's not a humorous story in any way. It's been an incredible, difficult thing in our lives, but through much prayer, I think God will be glorified through the telling of it, so I'll share with you. Over the last 3 years, this part is no secret. You know the spiritual warfare that we have encountered here at New Hope. When Jenny and I and the kids moved in 3 years ago, we were confronted with the reality of spiritual warfare like never before in our lives in a very real way. And I won't go into the details of that, but I will say it affected each of us in the house. From Jenny and myself to each one of the children had different experiences through the spiritual warfare, but Josiah seemed to be really a target. Josiah is our third oldest son. He's now 5 at the time. He was about 3 when all this really first started. Josiah seemed to be the target of much of this, and as a 3-year-old, he saw things that no young child should see, and he heard things that no young child should hear, and he had felt and experienced things that no young child should ever have to experience. And over the 3 years, we prayed, anointed, cast out, rebuked, bound, rejected on repeat in our home. That was common practice daily and nightly to go through anointing, casting out, binding, rebuking. I mean, you name it, we had done it. And we got to a point about a year ago last February, where we temporarily took a leave from the parsonage. We were blessed by some friends who let us stay at their place so we could get a little time to rest and recuperate and find some healing through the spiritual warfare that we had been under. During that time where we weren't in the parsonage, we organized a night of prayer here at the church on February 18th, a year ago February, and it was a great night. People came out from all over. We had people praying across the country for what would take place here that night, and we spent several hours praying through each building and all over the property and through the house and just all over the place. And after that, things seemed to be a little better. We moved back into the parsonage, and it wasn't long, however, before Jenny and I realized that things weren't over yet. We weren't out of the woods yet, and there were still things going on. However, things seemed to be different for Josiah. Josiah used to always seem really down all the time. Jenny and I would talk like, why is that kid never happy? He just always seems kind of out of it. Just always seems kind of disconnected. Just doesn't ever seem to have a whole lot of joy. And that seemed to be different with him. And so one day we were taking a walk down this dirt road right here next to the church, and I was kind of curious as to what Josiah had been experiencing since we moved back home. So I asked him, I said, hey bud, I said, have you since we moved back in, have you seen any bad guys or robots or monkeys? That's what you call it when you're a 3-year-old. All things that he became very familiar with, bad guys, robots, and monkeys. I said, you been experiencing anything? You been hearing anything or seeing anything since we moved back in? He kept walking and said, I looked at him, no, Dad. He said, don't you remember all those people came and prayed through the church and house? Like, don't you remember that, Dad? And I said, yeah, I remember that, buddy. And then he says one of the most profound statements I've ever heard anybody say, let alone a child. He said, Dad, but I don't think it was all those people. I think it was God that made the bad guys go away. Man, I'm not one to cry, so forgive me. I cried when I was typing it, so I knew it was coming. That's an incredible statement from a 4-year-old at the time. It wasn't the people. It was God who took the bad guys away. And so I tried to act cool about it, and I said, yeah, I think you're right, buddy. Absolutely. It was God. And then he said something that Jenny and I both had known, but we did not know that he knew. And he said, hey, Dad, there used to be a bad guy in me too. Jenny and I were aware of that. We had faced him many times over a couple of years. We did not know that he was aware of what was going on. And then he said, and God took that bad guy away too. That's incredible. That's incredible. He had learned something that I could never teach him in a Sunday school class lesson on spiritual warfare. He had learned something that I could never explain to him theologically of how things worked. He had learned something about God that I could never explain by words and words alone. And through my son, God showed me in a time where I confess I was broken and pretty hopeless at how things were going, that he is able and he will get the glory for his work. Because it wasn't the people who took the bad guys away. It was God who took the bad guys away. 1 Peter 4:19 says, "Therefore let those who suffer according to God's will entrust their souls to a faithful Creator while doing good." Let those who suffer according to God's will entrust their souls to a faithful Creator while doing good. Since having children and since confronting spiritual warfare and the spiritual forces of darkness in the lives of my children, I have had to learn not only to entrust my soul to our faithful Creator, I have had to learn to trust their souls to our faithful Creator. We have suffered according to his will, but look at what the verse says. He is faithful. He is faithful. And he is able. God is able to do whatever he wills, whenever he wills to do it, however he wills to do it, and with whomever he wills to do it, all the time. He is faithful to not abandon us in our need and in our trouble. He is faithful to bring about his perfect will and his perfect timing for his perfect reasons. And we spent several years of agony and torment for one lesson that he showed to a 4-year-old kid that has transformed our view and our take on how powerful and how amazing our God is. Suffering according to his will. He is faithful. He is faithful. And we are called to entrust our souls to our Creator. An amazing truth that God is able, and that came through the parenting experience.